Here we go with the first lesson in Chapter 5, found on page 195 of your big book. Let's start with the essential question. Well, the title is Model Percents. The essential question, how can you use a model to show a percent? I'm gonna focus in a little tighter. There we go. Investigate. Materials. They're suggesting that we use a 10 by 10 grid, which we'll do in the classroom. Not many people drive electric cars today, but one expert estimates that by 2025, 35% of all cars will be powered by electricity. A percent is a ratio or rate that compares a number to 100. A percent means per 100. The symbol for percent is this right here. Model 35% on a 10 by 10 grid. Then tell what the percent represents. The large square represents the whole of 100%. So this is 100%. Let's get this on the screen. 100% right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is a 10 by 10 grid. If you multiply 10 times 10, you get 100. All right, so each small square, each one of these teeny tiny squares equals 1% of this 100%. Shade the grid to show 35%. So 35% is a ratio of 35 out of 100. Write 35% as a ratio comparing 35 to 100. So 35 out of 100 squares is 35 out of 100 squares. So 35% equals 35 out of 100. They're the same. Just two different ways of writing the same thing. So by 2025, 35 out of 100 cars may be powered by electricity. So the way that we model this now, if this is 100, we shade 35 of the squares. So that's 10. That's 20. That's 30. That's 35. So this is the 35% out of 100. All right. So let's model 52% on the 10 by 10 grid. So we have 52 out of 100 squares is 52 out of 100. So 52 out of 100. Okay, in order to do that, I'm going to erase what I did for 35% because I don't have another 100 square. And I'm going to shade 52% or 52 out of 100. So that would be 1, 2, 3. So that's 10, 20, 30, 40, 52. So I shaded 52 out of 100, or 52%. So this is a little more than half. 50% is half. All right, now we're going to model 18% on a 10 by 10 grid, or 18 out of 100, which is also represented by this fraction 18 out of 100. So 18% equals 18 out of 100. Let's go ahead and erase one more time and model it. Okay, so 18% would be 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's 18% out of 100. All right, now we're on the back side. Explain how you would use a 10 by 10 grid to model 7%. Well, I would shade 7 of the 100 squares, just like what we were doing on the front side. Okay, so how would you model 1/4 on a 10 by 10 grid? What percent is shaded? And explain. So first of all, I need to convert this denominator. So I'd get the denominator to 100 because percent means per 100. Okay, so percent means per 100. So I need 100 in my denominator. So the first thing I'm going to do is come over here, do a little margin work, and times what over what is going to get me to 100. I need 100 in the denominator. Well, 4 quarters gets me $1, so 4 times 25 equals 100. What I do to one, I have to do to the other so that I'm multiplying by a form of 1. 1 times 25 equals 25. So 1/4 and 25 hundredths are equivalent fractions. All right. So let's say 1/4 equals 25 out of 100, or 25% is what's going to be shaded. 25% will be shaded if 1/4 of the 10 by 10 grid is shaded. All right. Let's see. Explain how you could use a model of 0.5% or 0.5% on a 10 by 10 grid. Well, 0.5 is half of 1, right? So 0 and 0.5% is half. Okay, that's terrible. Let me rewrite that. Is half of 1%. So 1 is well, let's say 1% is 1 out of 100. So we would shade half, because this is only half of 1 square. One of those teeny tiny little 10 by 10 squares. We would just shade half of one of them. All right, and finally, how would you model 181% using 10 by 10 grids? Okay, so this is more than 100. 181% is more than 100, so I'm going to need more than one 10 by 10 square. So I'm going to say that I need more than one 10 by 10 grid. I would shade one whole 10 by 10 grid, comma, then shade 81 squares out of the second grid. So basically, let's draw it. Pretend like this is a 10 by 10 grid. I would have to shade the whole thing, and that would be, so 181 equals 100 plus 81 if I separate them out. So this, I would shade a whole 10 by 10 square. Then I would shade 81, which would leave roughly this much of the second square. This and one more little square. So that's what it would look like. Okay, so make connections. Let's finish this up. Okay, the table shows the types of meteorites in Meg's collection. Shade a grid to show the ratio comparing the number of each type to the total number. Then write the ratio as a percent. All right, so here's our table. In iron, she has 21, stone 76, and stony iron, she has 3. Okay, a percent is a ratio that compares a number to 100, always. That's what a percent is, per 100, always. Okay, so out of her 100, so if I were to add all of these up, I get 100. 1 plus 6 is 7, plus 3 more is 10. Regroup the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3 plus 7. So this is out of 100 total. That's where that 100's coming from. So 21 out of 100 are iron. 21 out of the 100 are iron of the meteorites. Here with the stones, 76 out of 100 of the meteorites are stone. And then finally, stony iron is 3 out of 100. All right, so let's go ahead and model these. So this is 21 out of 100, which is 21%. Let's shade 10, 20, 1. Here we have 76 out of 100, 76%. And so, wow, a whole lot more of the stone, huh? Once we get it shaded, that's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so compare that to the iron meteorites. There's a whole lot more of the stone, isn't there? All right, so here we have 3 out of 100, which is 3 out of 100, or 3%. And that would be this right here, 3. That's it. All right, the rest we'll do together in class.